Hi, I'm Lenny Bennett, and in this Interdoco, aka interview documentary, we will be featuring a famous historian, Mary Jones, on 10 causes of World War I.
Hello Lenny, very nice to meet you.
G'day, Mary.
I'm so excited to be featured on your interview doco today.
Yes, the spark. Mary, I'd like to ask if in your professional opinion, you agree with that the assassination of Franz Ferdinand caused the spark to start the First World War.
Well Lenny, there's been a lot of confusion throughout the years as to who or what caused World War I to start. But I have always agreed that the assassination of Franz Ferdinand was the cause. It caused countries to mobilise their forces, as Serbia did not agree with the terms Austria-Hungary placed forward onto them. This scared the public and war was declared soon after. In fact, the assassination date is June the 28th, 1914, and the recorded date World War I started was July 28th, 1914. Only 1 month after the assassination, the war took place. If you don't think that's a major sign or hint as to what caused the war, then I don't know what is.
Maine is considered to be the war-causing formula. Can you please tell the viewers/audience what it stands for?
Why, yes, of course. Maine stands for militarism, alliances, imperialism, and nationalism. I think it is considered to be the war-causing formula, as it covers most aspects of war, such as land, resources, bodies, machinery, allies, and pride.
Okay, so seeing as militarism is the first point in Maine, could you please explain how it led to cause the First World War and give us a more in-depth definition?
Militarism can be defined as the belief that a country should maintain a strong military capability and be prepared to use it aggressively to defend or promote national interests. I think the way in which militarism led to cause the First World War was through its leaders. The generals in army were very much a part of countries' governments, and they spent a lot of time advising political leaders to focus on military, which would work in the general favours. They spent money on weaponry and were always making tactics.
If I may briefly add, I have heard that militarism back then was considered to be a philosophy or a system that places great importance on military power. To show for this, I have a quote by Alfred Wachs, a German historian who served in World War I. He defined militarism as the domination of the military man over the civilian, an undue preponderance of military demands and emphasis on military consideration.
Yes, that is correct. The military system and militarism, I think, is the most war-causing part of Maine, as it affects the public the most. Do you have any more questions regarding the topic?
I don't have any more questions regarding militarism, but I do have some more about Maine.
Okay, let's continue.
Alliances are defined as a relationship among people, groups, or states that have joined together for mutual benefit or to achieve some common purpose, whether or not an explicit agreement has been worked out among them. Mary, how do you think alliances led to World War I?
Yes, well, as you clearly defined, alliances are a form of relationship during the period of World War I. They were also seen as strength. Having an alliance meant that there was more chance of winning the war, as you had more resources, land, and bodies. The way in which alliances led to war was they dragged nations into it. For example, Germany was brought into the war when its ally, Austria-Hungary, declared war on Serbia.
Now, very quickly, Mary, if you don't mind me asking, the two dominant alliances at the time were the Triple Entente and the Triple Alliance. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And these consisted of France, England, and Russia for the Triple Entente, as well as Germany, Austria-Hungary, and Italy, who later left to join the Triple Entente in the Triple Alliance.
Yes, that is right. May I tell you who the representatives for each country in the alliances were?
Yes, of course.
The Triple Entente consisted of David Lloyd George, who was a representative for England, Raymond Poincaré for France, and Tsar Nicholas II from Russia. The leaders of the Triple Alliance were Kaiser Wilhelm II, who represented Germany, Franz Joseph I from Austria-Hungary, and Vittorio Orlando from Italy, who later switched alliances and moved to the Triple Entente. These two alliances were the strongest, as they had the most powerful main power over the other independent countries, which had smaller bonds.
Moving along to imperialism, the resource and land aspect of Maine. How and why do you think it led to cause World War I?
I think imperialism is definitely connected to alliances, because through those who you can share resources and land. But I feel like imperialism focuses primarily on the individual countries' land capacity and resources.
Yes, precisely. We have some questions about crises relating to imperialism, which happened pre-World War I, coming up later. Let's continue.
As I was saying, imperialism has to do with land and resources, so I think that this specifically caused the war through countries that need to have more land, and just to own more in general.
Very interesting answer. I have one last question relating to Maine. Nationalism is the act of pride for your country or nation no matter what it does. How do you think it led to cause World War I, Mary?
We have previously spoken about militarism, alliances, imperialism, and now we are talking about nationalism. These three were very much connected in the early 20th century. Military power was considered a measure of national and imperial strength. Nationalism, as you now have said, is pride for your country, no matter what it does, also known as extreme form of patriotism. This obviously leads to cause the World War I through horrid actions, which people supported, because no matter what their country did, they still supported it. People could also have been convinced to join the war, as it was protecting their own country and being nationalists. Well, most of the public anyway. Most people agreed and volunteered to go to war. The British were a great example of this. They took advantage of the public by putting up posters everywhere, some with famous war generals, others with women. As to why men should go to war, posters definitely increased the amount of people volunteering. Statistics show that 1 in 4 men went to war. Of course, not all of them went by choice, as later men were pretty much forced to go to war.
Very interesting. Thank you, Mary, for that very detailed explanation. Let's get on to the next question. Moving along from Maine, Mary, how do you think the Moroccan crisis places on the list of possible causes of World War I?
Well, Lenny, the Moroccan crisis took place between March 1905 and May 1906. It was about the status of Morocco. The countries involved were France, England, and Germany. Germany was always looking for more land and resources as it didn't have the biggest land mass, so when Germany heard about the African Congo, it got ready to fight. I call this a missed war, because a possible war was avoided as the countries came to an agreement. The reason why this is a cause to the start of World War I is because it shows Germany always wanted to fight. But the reason as to why I think this wasn't the spark is because it happened 8 years prior to the World War I, whereas the assassination of Franz Ferdinand took place 1 month before the
Quite similar to the Moroccan crisis, how do you think the Bosnian crisis led to cause World War I?
Yes, as you have previously stated, the crises are quite similar in that they are both fights over land. The difference is that the countries involved were Austria-Hungary and Serbia, with Russia backing Austria-Hungary and Germany backing Serbia. The countries were fighting over the Turkish province of Bosnia. In the end, war was also avoided, but both Allied countries did mobilize and were prepared in the event of attack. This crisis, in my opinion, was more likely to start the war than the Moroccan crisis, because countries mobilized. This took place on October the 6th, 1908 to 1909. I also think this crisis was another small step to a future war, as it came close to being a war itself.
This next question is more to do with your perspective on both of the crises. Do you think they led to the First World War, or do you think they were just missed attempts to start a previously avoided war? So World War I was bound to happen anyway?
Honestly, I feel that these crises were never going to start a huge war. If the war did begin over Morocco or Bosnia, I feel like it wouldn't have involved as much countries and people. But I also think that World War I was going to happen sooner or later.
Okay. See, I thought that the crises were going to start the First World War. But very interesting to see how other people, especially a great historian like you, feel about it.
Well, we do all learn from each other. Is this the last question?
Yes, it is. For the 10th and final question, Mary, I'd like to ask how war makes you feel, and if you could possibly describe some emotions through a mode of words that nations, countries, and empires felt during the pre-war period, and how these emotions ultimately led to the cause of World War I?
Well, Lenny, to me, war feels very cold, selfish, and painful, because there are always so many innocent victims, lives taken, and countries who just care about their government and political status. But in the case of World War I feel like there was a lot of aggression and tension, jealousy, greed, and power, as well as anger, hate, competition, and intimidation. These, to me, were the emotions that stirred up one hell of an emotional twister that eventually led to become one of the biggest causes of World War I, as everyone was getting swept away in the moment and being aggressive and narrow-minded mostly.
Thank you very much for your time, Mary. We really appreciate you coming in today. It was very interesting to hear your point of view on the causes of World War I.
You're very welcome, and I hope that I answered your questions well and that you have learnt at least 10 things which led to the cause of World War I. Goodbye, Lenny. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for your time.
That's okay. Bye.
Bye. We hope you enjoyed The Spark, a documentary on the causes of World War I. See you next time. I'm Lenny Bennett, signing out.